Yes, it is. It's that time, everyone. It's that time for another edition of Maryland's Cafe Society Radio right here on the YouTube channel. And how are you on this Tuesday, June 7th? It's the 158th day of 2022. Yeah, it's VCR Day, everybody. Don't know what that is for the young people who may be watching. Let me see if I can do this screen share for you real quick. Um, let's see here. I have a picture that I'd like to show you. All right, so let me go to screen share and see if we can make this happen fairly quickly. Hang on. It's all about learning new things, or, just doing it enough to where it becomes like second nature. Okay. So there it is. Can you see it? All right. That's the VCR. That's the actual, this is the VCR player, and this is the actual VCR. Of course, the control, and then all the cables that we used to have to connect to the phone and all of that good stuff. I'm sorry, the television and the cable line to get everything to work together. So there you have it, everyone. That's what a VCR looks like for those who don't remember, and for, of course, the young people who may have never seen one. I still have one, by the way. It's a dual. Remember when they came out with the DVDs, but we were still using the VCRs, and so we had the dual players. I still have mine, although I have not used it. And oh, wow. So anyway, welcome to another edition of the show, everyone. We're going to try to keep it short as usual. And so let's get right into it. Johns Hopkins University is reporting a little more than 532.5 million worldwide COVID-19 cases. That's right. The global deaths have hit about 6.3 million. And of course, here in the United States, we've increased to 84.8 million COVID-19 cases and 1,008,904 deaths. Now that's 4,122 more cases reported from last week's report. Of course, doubling, just short of doubling last week's. I think last week's was around 2,000, a little more than 2,000, and now this week's number is 4,122. So bottom line, let's continue to stay safe and protected and take care of ourselves, okay? Yeah, I know I'm sounding a little nasally. Is that right? A little nasal myself. Yeah, the day after my birthday, I don't know, it hit me. So the next day, I took the COVID test and it came back negative. And then I waited a couple more days and took the test again and it came back negative. So I guess it's just a cold. Now, I have been in more public places than usual, although I still wore my mask, although there may have been a couple of times where I didn't have the mask on. But nevertheless, yeah, I've been blowing my nose like crazy for almost a week now. But I feel okay. I feel pretty good. So anyway, having said all that, let's continue to stay safe and wear our masks, especially when we're in very public places. All right, so let's look at what's been happening in some of the news stories. Not a lot, because I have a lot to say about the few that I've chosen. And so while the United States lawmakers are still kind of dragging their feet about what kind of gun reform laws they're going to implement, even more mass shootings have happened since the tragic shooting in Uvalde. Things are changing at the state level, at least, starting with the state of New York now. Governor Kathy Hochul has signed 10 gun-related bills that will bar anyone younger than 21 from buying or owning semi-automatic rifles. There's also a ban on the purchase of body armor for most civilians And she has also strengthened the state's red flag laws. And again, there's more laws that has been signed. So, that's a good thing, right? And it is, but we still must stay on our federal lawmakers, everyone. We have to continue to urge them to support stricter gun laws, as we talked about this last week. And we have to continue to support those various organizations who are really out there doing the hard work, calling for change, and also seeing it through until the new laws are signed. So, reach out to your lawmakers. You can go to Google and find out how to connect with them, or again, some of these organizations out here who are doing the work. I'm sure they've sent you an email. Sign those petitions, sign those letters, and let's get some changes made, okay? All right. As for the other news stories, well, listen, we haven't been hearing major media talk about it too much. I don't listen to radio that much anymore. Isn't that strange? I don't know. There's got to be some kind of subconscious thing going on, maybe. I don't know. But as far as television, I haven't heard a lot of our news media talking about it. But what I'm referencing is the astronomical cost of gasoline, even gas to heat our homes and cooking gas, groceries, and rent. So let's deal with gas first. Now, according to the latest report from the AAA Motor Club, gas here in the United States hit a new record on Monday. A cost of regular gas has hit an average of about $4.87 here in the United States. Now, there are 5 states with the highest average gas prices as of yesterday, June 6th, which again was Monday. California leading the pack at $6.34 a gallon, Nevada $5.49 a gallon, Hawaii $5.47, Oregon $5.41, and the state of Washington at $5.40 per gallon. Also in the District of Columbia, the average cost of gasoline per gallon is $5.06. Now, I don't know. I don't know why we're not up there with probably California, because a few days ago, I shared that I've been having some issues with my car, but tinkering around with it, I was able to get it to a gas station, and the gas was $5.60, I believe 69 cents a gallon. Yes. And so I don't know why we weren't up there in the top 5, but Illinois, the state of Michigan, and Indiana have seen the price of gas rise as much as 40 cents just in the last week. So, I remember just like yesterday, back in the late 70s, like maybe 1979, 1978, hearing the adults and, even on the news channels, hearing all the banter about the cost of gasoline approaching $1 a gallon. Yes, $1 a gallon. Do you remember that? Those who are of my age or around my age? It was major news. I mean, they were kicking and screaming and making a whole lot of noise about it. We were approaching $1 per gallon for our gasoline. And then in the early 80s, by the time I was graduating from high school, the cost for gasoline actually surpassed $1 per gallon, and it was like the end of the world. And so we were encouraged to do this thing called carpooling. We were, and for those of us who had after school jobs, and I guess adults were doing this all along, but for us as teenagers, we were encouraged to carpool to work. That means, for those who don't know, getting together with other people you work with who live in your community, and everybody chip in on the gas, ride in and one car, and then you may alternate weeks. One person may get drive one week, the next person drives the next week. It became very popular, and it was, I guess America's way of dealing with gas costing more than $1 per gallon. So, anyway, I said all of that to maybe inspire some of you to do some carpooling until they figure this thing out. Now, I'm reading and hearing a lot about why this is happening. The push to move to push people to purchase the electrical vehicles, and just gas price gorging and, other things. But until we can get a remedy, maybe carpooling is something that we should all start considering again. All right. And then for groceries, well, everyone is talking about that. Everyone in the community, people you see in the stores, that's everybody's conversation, how their grocery bill has doubled in recent months. And it includes everything, right? Chicken, beef, eggs, vegetables, fruit, bread, everything just costs more. And even not just in food category, but in um, other items that you would find in the grocery store as well. And then on top of that, folks are noticing that their packaging is shrinking. So they're paying more for even less. And that's just, as I used to hear some of the old people in my life say, highway robbery. My goodness. And so the big question is why? Why is this happening? Well, I did a little research and I found out that there generally, for the most part, are five factors that affect food prices. One being supply and demand, another being the weather, one being disease outbreaks, war is another factor, and then, of course, natural disasters. And so, for this particular situation that we're dealing with now specifically, it's believed that some of the underlying forces for these increase in food prices is, supply and demand and the COVID-19 pandemic, a combination of the two, because of course, the COVID-19 pandemic falls under the category of disease outbreak. And then because of the pandemic, we had the supply and demand issues because the lockdowns were enforced. And so people began to stay home and eat more. The kids were home from school, people were working from home. And so there was a high demand for more food. At the same time, our shipping and supply chain was affected. And so, that affected, of course, the distribution and the transportation for getting the food from point A to point B. Meanwhile, the cost of oil um, increased, which meant it costs more to transport and deliver food to the various locations. And so all of these events um, cause the production, the distribution, and the transportation of our food items to increase. Now, the good news is there's an abundance of help out there, starting with jobs. We just talked about it last week, how, and there's just a recent job report out that there's an abundance of jobs out there now. I know no one wants to think about getting a second or third job, but it could just be temporary, just until this whole recession, inflation scenario goes away. Um, Also, there's a lot of food banks out there. So, there's always places in your community that you can go to get more help with food. And then the direct government assistance programs for American families, like the food subsidy cards, the link card, you can certainly apply for those. And then the indirect assistance to the producers of our food that the government can provide to help bring down the prices. And so that's what we're hoping will happen, fairly quickly so that we can all, feel a little bit more comfortable financially, right? Because between the prices of gas and food, some folks out there are really struggling. And then, thirdly, rent. Yes. Or even home mortgages. Rental prices across America have soared over the past year, with some cities even experiencing an average price hike of 40% or more. Yeah, and that has left our renters in particular grappling with whether they um, should move to another place that's more affordable, which in a lot of cases they don't want to do that, or if they should just cough up, start cutting corners in other areas of their spending so that they can stay in the places where they are currently living, and or worse, as we talked about a few months ago, the homelessness numbers have since the pandemic have increased despite all of the efforts to implement all of these safety nets so that people can stay in their apartments and their homes. Some unfortunately have been dealt that unfortunate blow of not having anywhere to live. So, you know, the report also says that there's less housing available for rent and even for sale. Well, we've been hearing about that, right? The inventory for homes to purchase is very, very low. And so, with the supply shortages getting worse, excuse me, which is, also contributing to the rising rental costs, inflation, all of that is making home ownership more unattainable, and even just folks having a place to live, keeping a roof over their head, a real struggle. In fact, back in November of 2021, the Roosevelt Institute published a report that emphasized solutions for these soaring rent prices, which include, these are two that I highlighted. One solution is to increase the supply of affordable housing. And I know that's the focus of a lot of people who are working in that arena of housing and affordable housing. They're really trying to push government programs so that developers can get away from the luxury housing developments and start focusing back more on affordable housing. And the other highlight was to expand rights for tenants who are currently at the mercy of these developers and landlords, because they don't have the rent control programs or policies in place, or there's no rent stabilization policies in place. And so, again, those are some areas that I know some organizations across the country are diligently working to get going so that folks can have Maslow's, when you look at the Maslow's chart, the hierarchy chart, those are three of the main areas that we really need covered. And so, just to kind of highlight and put a focus on that, because again, those are just some things that we're not hearing a lot about, but yet people out in your communities are talking about it and experiencing it. So it is a real thing. But I want everyone to remember, and you should encourage those who you may know who are dealing with it, to know that there's always a silver lining with faith, prayer, and action. Yes, the provisions and prosperity will belong to you. Just stay focused, and above all else, hold on to your joy, everybody. Things are going to get better, and you're going to get through this untouched. All right. And those who are touched, just stay in there, and change is coming. Okay. So let's go ahead and dive into the stock market report. And of course, this is as of about 1:30 Eastern time. today. The Dow was up 148 points to 33,104. The S&P 500 was up 24 points to 4,145, and the Nasdaq was up 83 points to 12,682. Gold is also up $11.27 to $1,842.70 per ounce. And oil is up $1.16 to 118.24 per barrel. All right. In other news, as we kind of close things out, I wanted to share this with you, local people, because I know, there's been a lot of talk about what's happening with the Louis Joliet Mall, what's going to happen. That's the only mall we have in the area. We don't want it to go away. Well, listen to this. According to a recent report that was published in the Women's Wear Daily, a company started by Deepak Ramani that's called Brand X plans to relaunch several Bonton and Carson's stores. And one of those stores happens to be the one that closed down here in the Joliet area at the Louis Joliet Mall. Now they're saying that this store, this Carson's, could reopen by the spring of 2023. They said that the Brand X company plans to launch an online site this summer that will be using the Bonton name, and then hoping to open a store under the name of Carson's next spring in that same location that they had at the Louis Joliet Mall. Now, it's been about 4 years since the Louis Joliet Mall sustained that significant loss of the closing of the Carson's anchor store. There were 3 major anchor stores in that mall, Carson's being one, Macy's being another, and J.C. Penney's being the third. And of course, Carson's left, and Sears. I'm sorry, there were 4 Sears. Sears left as well. So I don't know. That space is still open, has been open for the last 4 years. And so stay tuned, everybody. We'll see if Carson's makes that physical brick and mortar comeback that Women's Wear Daily is reporting will happen by next spring of 2023. All right. And so I don't know if you've been following the NBA playoffs. I have to some degree. And so far, things are tied up between Boston and Golden State. I think they're 2 games in, so it's 1 win each. And so much for my predictions of the Warrior sweep. But I still think the Warriors are going to walk away. I know there's a lot of hopeful people out there rooting for the Boston Celtics, but I think Golden State Warriors is going to walk away with the win. Now, in how many games? Dare I say 6? I'll go there. I'll say in 6 games. So we'll see. All right. And then another thing I just wanted to share and recommend, and that is a fact. Well, listen, over the weekend during some downtime, I happened to catch 2 classic movies from back in the day. You'll know these titles, Mahogany and Lady Sings the Blues. And yes, both of those films starred the fabulous Diana Ross. And so I caught these movies, and I guess I was looking at them through a different set of eyes. As a little kid, when the films first came out, I think I saw them, or at least heard people talking about them. But then as I got older, maybe as a teenager, I saw the films. And then as an adult, maybe in my 30s, I caught them again. Maybe I rented them on video. I don't remember, but I saw them. But man, seeing those films through the eyes that I have now, oh my gosh, it was really quite interesting. That's why I recommend if it's been a couple decades, a decade or more since you've seen Mahogany or Lady Sings the Blues, I recommend you go check it out. I think you'll see it differently. And so obviously she did a fantastic job. And for those who don't know, Mahogany is about um, a struggling fashion designer from the city of Chicago. Oh my goodness. The backdrop, they actually filmed the movie in Chicago. And so seeing, growing up, spending part of my life in the city of Chicago, in the neighborhood where the film, or close to the neighborhood where the film was made, was kind of nostalgic, and I had to ask myself, why are you getting all nostalgic over these rundown communities, these vacant properties? I mean, it showed all of that. But it was a part of my childhood. I grew up kind of around that, although my immediate couple of blocks was not that, until later on in the late 70s, early 80s. But yeah, the just seeing all of that, um I don't want to say props, because they were actual cars and cabs and buses and L's that I used to see as a kid. And so anyway, it just moved me in a certain way. But yeah, she's just struggling fashion designer from the city of Chicago, trying to make it big. She's in love with a guy who's really rooted in the city of Chicago. Is about trying to improve the lives in his community and neighborhood and within the city of Chicago. And so there's that conflict of her wanting to move on and out of Chicago, and him wanting to stay. Anyway, it's really, really good. So check it out when you get a chance. And then, of course, Lady Sings the Blues. We all know um, that film was based on the life of Billie Holiday. And Diana Ross did a wonderful job of playing that role as well. And it was so tragic what happened to her, early in life, and then, of course, later on in her life. So, yeah, check those out. I just wanted to share that with you. All right. All right. And so, one last thing before we wrap up the show today, and it's real simple. I saw this. It's an Einstein quote. And so, Einstein once said, "The true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination." It's all going to tie together in a minute. Just hang on in there, okay? All right. And so before we go, let's look at our word for the month of June. And that is Empyrean. Empyrean. Empyrean, which means related to heaven or the sky. And so listen, if you have a business, a product, a book, a CD, a movie, or just yourself that you'd like to promote with the show, my website, send an email to producer@marilynscafesociety.com. Also, remember to check out the website, marilynscafesociety.com, where you can connect with me on my social media platforms. And again, thanks so much to everyone who checks the show out on the YouTube channel. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And please do join the email club by sending your email to marilynscafesociety@yahoo.com. And I'll send out something to you every Monday. Just a little motivation, inspiration, or humor to get you going for the week, all right? And that is, again, Marilyn's Cafe Society at yahoo.com. All right, are you ready for what love is? Love is imagination. Imagination. All right, everybody, that's it. That's all I got. Oh, I'm wearing my orange because I heard on one of the news broadcasts earlier this morning that folks were wearing orange today, to show their support for reform gun reform or stricter gun control laws. Okay, so that's why I'm wearing my orange, and also in memory of all those who have lost their lives to gun violence. All right, so before we go, I have to remind you, if you don't do anything else this week, be sure that you live, you laugh, and you love. And as always, it's a pleasure and a privilege to hang out. And we'll, of course, be together again on the show next Monday. Now, this is a month of June, so we're winding down the season. And in July and August, we'll dip into the summer specials that we'll be bringing to you. And of course, get geared up for season 5 of Maryland's Cafe Society Radio on the YouTube channel. So until next Tuesday, everybody, be good, all right? I'll see you on the next show. Peace.